This one's going to be real weird for me. Not the least of which because it is going to have me more attached to everything than normal. That's because I'm running it through the capture card this time. Oh, I just missed the start of that. I think I'll let that fly. I do want to actually get the start of that, though. That does mean sitting around for a minute. I think that's fine, at least partially because I'm going to have to replay the start here. Well, everything I show off today. I originally intended to have the little overlay that I have filtered out. I'll actually show what it looks like without my overlay on. It's just black, and my thinking was, okay, I would use the blend addition with a properly sized version of what I'm using as the background, and that would just hide the black, right? Not so much. So, yeah. That sucks, but I think I know how to do it using PaintNet, but so yeah. The problem of chords. Also having stuff on your desk. Now obviously, since I'm running this through the capture card, I managed to get my save over. That was actually not near as much of a hassle as I was expecting it to be. Mainly because I was able to find my thing that can take PS1 memory cards. And we're starting off with Lob Hole. Lob Hole? I don't know. German was never one of the languages I was particularly good at, and I took it for years in high school. I will say that the D-pad of the PS2 controller I'm using being slightly spongier than the Wii Pro controller I'm used to using is... I don't know that that was really an improvement. I rather like the bass song that this area has. And here we meet one of the strongest, most important characters we will have access to for a while. This is Patrick. Patrick is one of the reasons why, when I sat there and couldn't remember ever using LaBelle, this dude's the reason. If I can ever remember how to bring up the... I will never not laugh at the stupid name. Actually, since I do want to put a direct comparison in, I'll drop him out for Tyler. And actually, I want to compare him to Tyler first. Now, okay, so his skill levels right now kinda suck, but so do Tyler's. Tyler has a lot more health, but Tyler has 20 years on him. Tyler's had, I think, 1 year where HP starts to go down. I think 36 is tops for HP. He has 20 more years of WP gains. He's not wearing steel, which is the real reason why Patrick's SP was so crappy. Oddly, it doesn't impact SP regain as much as you would expect, because Patrick's SP regen sucks. But he brings some pretty good spells, most notably Firestorm. Delta Petra is very useful because of the fact that Petrify is instant death. Roll Beat is okay, but nothing spectacular. The 4 WP regen is ridiculous. I could have sworn we were supposed to have better axes for Tyler by now. Not a huge deal. I've kind of been trying to use Tyler as a mage. Tyler just kind of sucks at most things that aren't using the axe, though. Patrick can also use axes. Don't use axes with Patrick. Really, we probably want to give Patrick the Silver Staff. And I don't even know, do we have another decent staff? The Snake Staff? We probably want to give him the Snake Staff for Beast access. Beast is going to be unimportant right now. We don't have Reviva, which is one of a few reasons why I'm going to be going back and doing everything I've played on screen again. Focusing pretty heavily on grabbing techs that I missed. I don't think there's any important items I missed. I will be setting up parties to fight super bosses, and I'll show those off on stream, but those will be most likely loading up specific saves. Anything else? Yeah, these raw tools are fantastic for just getting access to abilities. Oh, that actually has a SP regen. That's useful. It'd be more useful if we had... That's not what I intended to do. Sometimes I get the buttons backwards on PlayStation controllers for some reason. I know what it is. I'm kind of used to the A button and the circle button being accept. And since we've kind of established that he, at the moment, is basically Tyler but better, we can see that, well, Tyler is a million times better than LaBelle. LaBelle, of course, being hurt by the fact that we gave our good bows to Narcisse, who I don't think we're going to be seeing again, but we can always grab his stuff from the equipment reclaimer next time we see her. But I do want to directly compare him against Will. Will we are building as a magician, because Will's best as a magician. There's no getting around it. Cody we're building as a spear user, and she is our strongest character right now. There is no exception to that. There is no anything else. She's tops, everyone else is not. I do want to get into some duels with Cody, see if I can get twin dragons, but that's not super important for this go around. Again, that's more for when I'm running through all of this again. Things like twin dragons and Beast Lightning and Wide Swing and Turtle Killer, along with Reviva. The fact that I don't have any of those kinda is one of the reasons why I'm gonna be doing that restart. Also, I don't think I've ever had Will be the low HP member of this party. Like, I don't think I've ever had him have more than Patrick, but I'm not used to him having less than Cody. And of course, Cody has by far the strongest weapon, so... Her and Will probably be doing most of our damage, which I believe is the intended outcome for this party, but I think Tyler's supposed to be more useful than he's actually going to be. I can't remember if this place has a decent tool seller or if they can ship stuff. Nope. I see an oak staff. That means that they cannot ship. Well, that's unfortunate. That's not really the intended purpose of the books. You're supposed to read them. And I don't think we can access the secret area here because this lady's not talking about it, and I think that's the requirement. But once we have access to La Bolts on as a general area, leaving through the east exit is, I believe, supposed to give us access to the Ghoul Tower, which is a megalith. And that's a small touch right there. I needed to walk through the snow up to the city. I really like it. It's one of those things where it's small, it's dumb as heck, and it's basically completely meaningless. But it's world building. Most places don't have this much snow. Also, most places don't have this many quells if you have quells for fireplaces. But yeah, you'd freeze to death outdoors. I believe all the Pocket Station games are the same, so I don't know why they keep giving you Pocket Station prompts. Or for potentially giving you hypothermia. I know there's another... Oh, This is one of the problems with the area. I sometimes have trouble seeing the doors. Will, you're not taking their fireplace. Quit being an idiot. Okay, I guess we can take their fireplace if we had 10,000 credits. But don't do that. Hotstone sucks. It's just access to fire. It's the standard 1 SP regen. I mean, yes, we are using all of our wells, but... Oh yeah, that reminds me. I need to discard those steel amulets since we can't ship them. It's not like I'm running out of space too much. I'm closer to running out of space than I thought. Partially because of all these stone knives and stone axes, various other garbage things that I should have chipped before. Yeah, I'm going to set everybody's stuff up. I believe that the only important one here is actually Painful Beat, and I'm pretty sure that that's the case for Patrick as well. The only really useful... No, okay, that's not true. The most useful late-game art for staves, because staves and clubs are combined in this one, is Turtle Killer because it lowers the defense of the opponents. With spears, one of the most useful is Beast Lightning because it lowers the magic defense. Though I believe it says it lowers magic power, but I'm pretty sure it lowers the magic defense. Actually, I want to check and see if I have the things that can potentially... Yes, Swing and Stab's actually pretty good because it, if nothing else, it can grab Wide Swing, and I believe everything else I'm looking for can be gotten off the basic attack. Yeah. I'm gonna keep Recovery Breath on people. It is kinda useful. Wait a second. Do we need to get into a fight before? Okay, that was weird. And these are decent, but there's just... Unlike normal games, there's not a lot of reason to use the weaker versions if you have access to the stronger versions. And actually, I don't want Water Hammer. Water Hammer kind of sucks because it, I thought it was going to be Psyche down, but it's, as I understand it, actually just a confused effect. So we have Water Tone, Free Flame, and Stone, everything but Beast. And our Beast spell sucks, so... Now, we will... Things that are not immune to poison will still want to get the poison effect going. Oh, and I can, I really shouldn't be doing solo action on characters that I don't worry about them learning stuff. Wall increases your defense 1.2 times. I wish I had something to combo later with. I think support, even though she is our strongest character, bumping everybody else's attack up will be pretty useful. Stone and Flame. I'm checking Axe real quick to see what the things I would actually want are, because I know they're going to just be the regular arts, because Axe hybrids are pretty bad. And I want to see if I have a route to them from my current options. So it looks like Flash Trinity, Sky Rendezvous, and Tornado Divide. Well, it looks like could spark Flash Trinity from this, from Axel turn. It can't do the later options, but with Flash Trinity already taking 8 Waza points, I'm not so sure that that's a major concern. It's probably going to be attacking or using spells a fair amount of the time. Do we have another way to get you Tone? And I'm not even really using the Chris Knife Quell at the moment. That is for two reasons, if I'm being real honest. The first one is that nobody needs a defense, and almost everybody's using their second weapon for access to something they need. I think we need to go back in here, because I think the character we need to talk to is in here now. Ah yes, Mr. Generic himself. I assume that's her middle name? I mean, honestly, if he sucks worse than LaBelle, then I'm not real sure even a strong quell would help him. A megalith. Why don't you just, you know, call them what they are, death traps? Also, this is a lot of foreshadowing. Tycoon William. I think we just leave him. And you might be wondering, did we get Will? Well, of course we did. Let's swap him out for Tyler. Will sucks. Not Will Knights. William sucks. His gear sucks, his weapon sucks. And something you can only see from that battle style menu, his equipment cannot be reclaimed. It's just not present there. But yeah, they're good fits for not being in our party because they both suck. Polar drakes have a fair amount of health. I am disappointed that that is not going to hit two of them. I might want to put Will at the back if I'm going to be trying to do that stuff with him. But yeah, polar drakes are real dangerous. I would like to note I did not quick save. Oh, I thought I had it on the one on the left there. I also don't know for certain that they're actually susceptible to petrify. I do definitely want to focus on the one I've already done damage to. And this will help show, you know, another way just how good combos are. 1700 versus 1400 of their regular attacks. Admittedly, that was Fang Crush versus the Glider Spike that all of them did first round. God. I think probably just doing Firestorm might be a little bit more powerful. I believe these have about 2500 health. They are real brutal though. Yeah, I expect to see Pat's staff levels going up a fair amount here, because they are low. I mean, he's better at it with it than Will is. That's really not saying much. Should have saved. And no, I'm not sure what that tiny bit of slowdown is entering the fight. And since I am going for something specific that sparks off these. And we have more of the seed bunnies, at least as overworld sprites. One of the reasons that Patrick is a tiny bit difficult to get levels for as far as his stats go, or as far as his skills go, is he's here at a time where frequently everybody's just going to be able to kill everything prior to him moving. Obviously the drakes are an exception. I do want to have everybody attacking the same target. Right. Oh, this could still be good. Yeah, that's a sizable increase in damage. I don't think this will be enough to kill the Drake, though. Like I said, I think they have about... Oh, no? Maybe? Nope. I think they have about 2,500 health. I'd like to see some things that are longer than just double attacks, but I'm not sure if the triple combos are actually that doable. I believe they might have. Oh, I was wondering what that was. I think we'll beat the actual turn. Yeah, bad. Some of these obviously are not going to be super useful. Some of them are likely going to be still pretty good. And of course, any combo is going to be a lot better than a single strong attack. That's one of the reasons why I like that Snake Blaster has apparently comboed well with everything but Firestorm. One of the potential problems with the combos, of course, being that you can't spark arts off of them. Burr, I believe, is one of those things I was going to try to show it off, but I'm pretty slow coming out of those fights. So. And we're also seeing the effect of gradual WP loss there from Patrick. I will have to switch him over to using spells for a bit. Which isn't going to be a huge deal, but will be kind of annoying. Also, I keep clicking back into OBS like that's what I need to do in order for my controller to work. Items. Which just... Oh, it's armor. I was thinking that it was a, like a hat, like these hats that suck. And the weird running around is me trying to avoid encounters. I'm not very good at it, but that is what I am trying to do. And not surprising, since his magic skills, not spells, but skills, are kind of trash. Patrick was not able to do the 500 damage, 600 damage that Will's doing with that spell. I was thinking we had Woodstock. But you know, I'm not too sure. I'm not 100% certain if you can learn spells you already have access to. Lighter Spike is positively brutal, largely because of the fact that it can do LP damage flat out. But yeah, those two combining for the Firestorm duo did as much damage as Cody and Tyler, not combined. Also, we see one of the issues with if Tyler doesn't get lucky with axe skill levels, as is the case here, he's really not any better than Patrick, which will be an issue. In fact, it might end up being an issue this playthrough, this area. The boss here can end up being kinda rough. Also, as I understand, one of the things that makes... Damn it. I should probably move Tyler off of the front row, since I'm pretty sure he takes more damage from things than everybody else right now. And that HP buffer's not really doing him any good. This area is a little bit annoying to get around just because there's so many encounters. Normally I don't run into this many, but I'm still adjusting to the controller. But we are definitely seeing one of the issues with somebody trying to use a lot of non-hybrid arts on a weapon user. Which is, of course, that there is no minimum lower boundary for WP. Sure, your attacks get stronger as your WP gets lower. That doesn't really help you much if you don't regain WP when the battle ends. Also watch, just to be a dick, the Polar Drake's gonna hit Tyler anyway. Called freaking shot. I was expecting glider spike, but... Let's see if... you have any better luck. Quit picking on Tyler. Jeez. Might need to start healing him. Oh, and you can see a little bit of the interpolation on the... Oh, I guess this is the only way to go. I was thinking there was more here in this initial area. I might be thinking of something else. And I am going to check and see if that actually counted as recovery. I have my doubts. Yeah, it did not. As you can see by Tyler still being way low on LP and Patrick having no WP still. I had forgotten about that little cutscene just because cutscenes in SaGa Frontier 2 are so rare. And here we are. Oh no, I think this is what I was thinking of as to where there should be items. Yeah. It's a crappy bow, but it's the bow. I do think I'm going to switch LaBelle into the party just so I can load her up with garbage I'm not going to equip for a while. And something that feels like it's about the dumbest move I can do. These enemies are not super dangerous. I believe the housekeepers are the same, possibly with more HP. Although that's demonstrably wrong. They're doing about twice as much damage as they were doing. But none of these enemies should be particularly painful. If we were going all out, I'm pretty sure just a will firestorm would kill all of them. Given that our attempt to get skills, get new arts is enough to kill them all. You might be saying, well, that's weird, that feels like there's some slowdown here, but there's no, you know, audio slowdown. The game does some slowdown occasionally. I don't It was present on the actual PlayStation, and as are these weird pixelation issues. It's not an issue with the PS2's version of emulation. Oh yeah, what I was gonna do. Since we can't get his stuff back, I'm not really worried about it. Also, since the gear that he has on is trash anyway. But, I mean, it's a 14 attack bow. I'll throw it on her simply because I'm not using any bows, but... Actually, since I want to put that on Gus, most likely. I'm hesitant to put these on her. I'll put the crappy gear that I'm not using on. One gem particle should be fine. This way, if I can't chip the gear after I grab it from her, it's not necessarily that big a deal. It sucks, but, oh, that's... I believe the Glacier Shield's the best shield we have. We're not really using shields, there's not much reason to use shields. And I forgot to swap LaBelle over to somebody useful. Just have Will use Firestorm. But yeah, here we get to see one of the oddities. The spear's optimal range, that is to say, when the spear gets to move first. Is weird. Axe is obviously very close. That makes sense. Spears seems to be 3/4 of this ring. With an exception being at the middle rather than on either edge. Spears are just weird. Nope, we still don't have any WB. And that's showing off one of the neat ways, and the only way, to get a 5-person combo attack. And if any of the bosses ever did charge, it would be really neat to be able to do that to them, but I don't think any of the bosses ever do. Nothing that you actually really want to murder that way can be hit with a 5-person all-out attack. But yeah, we're seeing a strong case for hybrid arts here. Or spellcasting. But if you have a quell weapon or a steel weapon for that matter, it doesn't take that much to override the minus SP, minus SPR of steel weapons. It is a slightly lower max SP total, but that tends to not be that big a deal. Will's spell level increases have helped to keep him ahead of the curve, unsurprisingly. He is ultimately, due to the combination of how many times you're able to use him and just his general growths, probably the best spellcaster in the game. I'm doing. But yeah, our damage totals are gradually increasing. I am kind of surprised that Will and Cody have similar SP totals now. And something that a viewer mentioned last time, talking about the sprite changes, we are on probably Will's worst looking sprite. It's unfortunate that that's the sprite he has for, I don't know, half the game, 2/3 the game? Effectively, 2/3 the time you use him. He has his young sprite, which is fine, but not as good looking as the other two. He has his middle-aged sprite, which is... I like it more because it's blue, if I'm being real honest. And he has Old Man Will, which honestly looks like it was the original sprite basis for this. I'm always bad at judging how wide these corridors are. Like, I'm not great at avoiding enemies in the first place. These corridors not being 100% consistently sized, or the art not necessarily 100% lining up or making it obvious where the walkable path is, makes it difficult. Oh, I think there's an item there. I know I'm still missing 2 items, so that is one of the reasons why I'm still going through fights. I don't know that I'm actually going to bother getting both of those items because I know nothing here is worthwhile. Also, I do need to check and make sure that I'm not full on items before I grab that. Also, we're seeing here that, you know, maybe I shouldn't have bothered with the dragging out the PlayStation and doing this on it. That slowdown's a lot more prevalent than it is on the emulator. I swear I'm not actually, actually no, I am dumb as hell. I'm not always dumb as hell, but I am definitely dumb as hell. Patrick will never have WP to do anything until we get into a... Well, that was kind of what I expected, yeah. Double Thrust doesn't proc anything useful that I can recall. That is actually useful, eventually. Yeah. Well, I say that, but that requires him to get WP again, and that's never going to happen. Now I need to remember how to get to the actual megalith part. I'm actually real tempted to go back and heal. Largely because of the LP damage we took. Going through that first area like 5 times. At the very least, since I'm 2 rooms away from the tent, I'm tempted to go back and see if that's available as a rest spot. And then once we do that, just have everybody use. Hey, nice! This is one of the things I wanted, and you can see why on the bottom there. Stun is very strong. And while plenty of things are resistant to stun, few things are flat immune to stun. I'm gonna check how many. I know it's not gonna be a lot. Yeah. 7 spots. What are those? Also, I was wrong. I was thinking this led to the same spot as I was in before. I don't know if those two items are useful or not. Since Snake Blaster is what I have on her, and Flame, whatever the heck it is, does not. Firestorm does not add water. I'm going to be focusing on having Cody use Sonic Poison. I don't even know if I have fire on her right now. This is actually one of the better non-quells, because it's Tree Flame. Tree Flame is real good. I mean, when we get something to replace this Light Spear, which will happen this time, and it will be stronger than the Ice Lance, meaning she'll go from best to even better. Wow, Will's actually ahead of 2 people. as far as HP goes. This will probably be going to somebody else that wants easier access to water terrain. Possibly Will, because he is using a fair amount of fairly expensive spells. Actually, does the Chris Knife help with SP regen? It does. He's not really using Tone for anything, aside from Sonic Poison. Does anybody have a Wind Shell they're not really using? I don't think so. Oh, there we are. I mean, he doesn't... We could drop the Delta Petra, but I seem to recall there's certain things here that are kind of a pain without having that. I'll make that sacrifice. Oh, that's our Quell, never mind. And we can't drop Tree or Flame. And dropping water hurts. Huh, the Snake Staff has a, if only we used Beast for anything. Like if we had Reviva. Okay. That ended up being pointless. Honestly, I think just using Snake Blaster is going to be stronger. And more likely to actually let her attack something. I think this should be the... yeah. 1,000 credits. Berserker Axe. Well, that is a fair bit stronger. I will need to put this down real quick. I'm going to go grab something to drink while I'm paused here. Prefer to be ahead of the when I would start to get thirsty, because I tend to drink more water than like Stay Hydrated bot would suggest. Now that is his water access, but because we're using Firestorm so much, that's not really a huge deal. And that provides... Oh, that is perfect. We can bring back the Dew Axe. Not use it as anything but access to abilities. And I think it's up here. Is progression? It's looking like I'm probably wrong though. Even with this setup as is, where I'm not losing anything in any of these encounters, and there's technically speaking only positives, because I'm not using anything but quells and hybrid arts. Quells, spells, and hybrid arts. That's what I get for my hand not even being near the controller when the fight ends. Well, near the D-pad, I guess I should say. Obviously, my right hand was on the controller, but... This incredibly boring area is causing me to fidget as much as I've... Well, more than I've done in ages. Well, there's birds here, and there weren't birds on other paths actually on the megalith. Wait. On the path to the megalith. And for the record, what I was checking there, megaliths almost universally, I don't want to say universally because I don't fully remember. Megaliths almost universally don't have anima present. Think back to the creepy as hell looking anima or a megalith that held the egg. Cody didn't like it. Presumably because, being youngest at the time, she would have been the most sensitive to the lack of anima. And also I'd like to note, if you let Cody die, you have to have LaBelle in your part. Well, okay, maybe William? William, whose gear you lose at the end of his bit. So if you're letting him have this quell or the later spear quell we will get here, you just lose out on 2 quells. So yeah, you should be using LaBelle, is what I'm getting at. Or better yet, say screw the story, they don't have enough progression, plot progression, character progression for LaBelle. Given the fact that you only actually need to pick her up for this scenario. The first time I picked her up, she wasn't necessary. Also, my X button didn't want to work there. Maybe it was well, no, that's dumb. I was gonna say maybe it was because I had 3 buttons held down, but that's a USB error. That's not even a real error associated with USB. That's an error associated with how everything was doing USB for a long time. This isn't a crappy keyboard, this is a dedicated controller. Silence bell. I will eventually... I'll save again. It's a decently strong bow. I think we've had one before. Here we are. Now there is a real boss in here, but these basic slimes are not it. I think there is a real slime boss in here too, if I remember correctly. And I am going to be junking some of the hats real quick. Well, a hat and a pair of wooden shoes. We're just getting a little bit uncomfortably close to being low on spots. Since I have not gone to a thing where I could chip stuff in a while. And of course, last time I had the opportunity to chip stuff, I didn't chip particles or any of the other stuff I stated that I should chip even at the time. Also, I really like the general area music here. It pretty strongly reminds me of Chrono Trigger. Obviously, you haven't gotten that much of a chance to listen to it, but... Also, something I really like that is at least more obvious to me now that everything's scaled up by integers is that a lot of the kind of darkening effects they use are just dithering. I think I went this one before. There we go. And this is the actual megalith part. That is an incredibly annoying sound effect. And so everyone passed out. And, you know, I'm not entirely sure. And this is a hint. Don't go back there yet. Leave first. Do the side areas. But I don't fully remember how to get to. Is it before you enter here? No, it has to be once you've entered. Okay. So I think it's you do this and then you do right again. One of the issues is that these rooms are kind of puzzles, and I don't remember the exact solution. Now, obviously, the easy way is to kill all the slimes so that you don't have to worry about them anymore, but... Okay, so... basically, with each of these, there are 2 rooms. And I think we want... I think this might be it. We need to take an odd number of teleports to get to that center teleporter. But I can't remember if the teleport that I'm about to take counts as a further port. The fact that there are enemies here and the enemies don't change locations when you port makes it more difficult to tell that you're in 2 separate rooms. Okay, yeah, so I need to take 3 ports. Well, an odd number of ports regardless of how we get there. So this should be the correct route. As I recall, this isn't even the particularly good one. Okay. What? Really, I just don't know how the heck to get to the correct spot. Obviously, this is... Oh. I'm dumb. I am super dang dumb. Yeah, a slight improvement. We need to get fire access back, though. Tone is important. Water is not. Tree is. Actually, I don't know that we need to get fire access back on her. Yeah, like it might be nice to have the stronger fire spell, but she can just use Snake Blaster most of the time. And she doesn't actually need Swing and Stab anymore because Wide Swing is what we were trying to get there. Yeah. Dumb as hell. And the Hyper Water is, I believe, not a Quell, but just a, yeah, a strong water tool. We did get this Beast Quell, which makes you immune to sleep. Honestly, for most of the time, the immunity to sleep is the stronger of the two aspects of it. Now to go around and see if somebody already has access to the things they need and just has a tool equipped for the hell of it. No. Looks like no. Well, that happens. And now we get to drop a save here. I'm saving this in the same spot as I was rather than overwriting the pre-run save. Yeah, Cody is kind of strong. As for that matter is Will. I believe most of the time that I've gone through all these scenarios, Will is about this strong later in the game, not this early. I have run through more battles than normal, as can be seen by, although, no, Tyler's at about normal HP for me, now, finally. And Patrick's not been getting much HP, which is real weird. This version of Tyler and Patrick are like the weakest weakest in two ways, really. Weakest in that they've not been getting skills because they've not been getting to attack. And weakest in that they don't have 1,000,000 HP. Is this not... Oh, I needed to hit a button. I wish they made it more obvious when you needed to hit a button. Hey, we were able to skip that. Okay, so if it materializes your thoughts... Well, Will's last thought there was that he needed to save everyone. Presumably there was a bit of subconscious desire for a quell from here, which gave him the Night Medallion. And of course its immunity to sleep might be associated with the fact that he knew that he needed to stay awake to save them. Not sure why it's a beast quell, though. And of course Tycoon Will sucks, so he becomes a giant purple dog. God damn it, Will. And we did enough damage to retreat. Now he says hurry, run, but there's... You don't get into any additional extra encounters just because you're being slow. They're all forced encounters. And really this whole thing kind of feels like the, some of the, fighting while running away type encounters of, like... Honestly, the only thing that comes to mind is Final Fantasy VIII. I think it was a giant mechanical spider there. Might need to LP heal on Patrick. If he gets targeted again, I'll do it. But yeah, we can't kill the Megalith Beast. Presumably, the canon in-game reason is the Megalith Beast is absorbing anima from the Megalith. So without separating the beast from the Megalith, we can't kill it. Also, I was thinking that the second form had about 4,000 health before you could retreat, but I'm guessing it's 6,000. And of course it lets you do a quick save there, which is useful. I don't see any reason to not do the quick save there. Quick saves are basically instantaneous, and it's real nice that the game actually has that built-in feature. Practically like save states. Just, obviously you can't do them as frequently as save states. This looks super dangerous. And indeed, it is fairly dangerous. You might be thinking, why aren't you taking out the, Polar Drake? That's the dangerous thing, right? It can do like 300 damage. Well, you see, we're trying to do, I think it's either 10 or 12,000 damage to the Megalith Beast. And these are neutered versions of Polar Drakes, and they respawn instantly. Instead of having one come back at a time, both come back. So there's, just never much of a reason to actually go after them. If you kill them, great. might save you from some damage that turn. But just that turn. And I continue to love the music that this game has. Oh, I thought both came back. Regardless, it's still not worth it going after them. But, since specifically going after them, I think I would only be able to kill one a turn. So I believe that we should be just north of 10,000 after this one. Okay. Will and Patrick are a tiny bit low, and I would really rather not lose anybody. But yeah, Cody is also demonstrating that having 2 Quell weapons equipped means your SP basically does not go down even if you're using hybrid arts. It is very ridiculous. There we go. And I think there's a forced retreat somewhere around once we've done double this damage, so that would probably be about 24,000. And hey, the path went back down, which means I guess we timed it perfectly. And Will taking a very practical approach to that. And LaBelle being kinda weird. I guess I understand it. And that scenario took 90 minutes. I should probably actually have the path, the order back up. Because we have a whole bunch. That Anima Faith fiasco? We ain't getting to it today. Now, this brings up an interesting thing regarding inheritance in SaGa Frontier. Why didn't Philip inherit Finney? And I think I have the answer. Now, the logical solution is that this is kind of a first come, first serve, gavel kind inheritance. Kind of a combination of primogeniture or primogenitive. I don't remember which one of those. And gavel kind, in that the first one that comes up oldest gets that first one, but you can also, it also has elements of, you know, being able to nominate your heir. And I think the reason that this kind of feels out of place, kind of feels odd, is this is really ultimately a similar succession scheme to what much of Japan did. Not during really their equivalent of the Middle Ages. But during Nobunaga's era, of which Gus the 13th, Steel Gus, is pretty clearly supposed to represent, it was pretty common during Nobunaga's time. You didn't always choose your first or second or third. You would choose the best to be your primary heir, but you also needed to land your other sons. And this succession dispute, to put it kindly, is fairly similar to Nobunaga's own. He was not, well, he was the intended heir as per his father's words. But obviously Gus failed the ceremony, so he was no longer the intended heir. Nobunaga was the intended heir per his father, but the retainers wanted the younger son, his younger brother, to be the heir. And of course, this kind of suggests that, maybe Gus is kind of just going along with the flow. And Kelvin understands that, well, while Gus views his own goals as very selfish, not everyone will understand that, he's thinking of others while, still viewing his own goals as selfish. Nebelstern is taking it very politically, which is the only real way to do it. And Nebelstern understands where Gus is coming from. And I believe, in an odd sort of way, his desire to see how capable he is comes from Sealmer, his primary tutor. And since this game primarily concerns itself with historical matters, and Leslie has taken to the side basically to stay out of, not necessarily history, but the targets of assassins that would be going after Gus and Gus's family. We don't really see Leslie again, I don't believe. Not once we return to Merchman. And Cantal is a name that you might not be familiar with, but Marie married the King of Cantal. Cantal, I don't fucking know. And so Gus apparently, well, Nebelstern probably, focused very heavily on movement. Likely this is, again, a reference to Nobunaga. These tactics are kinda, more associated with the victors rather than the losers. Nobunaga was able to have very fast-moving armies because he didn't care about the samurai. Gus is able to have faster-moving armies because, well, let's... Oh, I don't think I can actually view the soldiers. Well, we have Nebelstern and Kelvin. Kelvin is an archer. And Gus is... I believe Gus might be our only steel soldier unit. And of course, the ultimate enemy here is Philippe's army. Well, it's really Gus the 14th's army, but... And I'm being, fairly careless, but I seem to recall this battle basically being easy as hell tutorial stuff. Oh, that is still us. Isn't it? No. Circle wasn't bringing up the end turn menu for a bit there, for reasons I don't understand. And they had plenty of reserves, which means we will want to try to end this in a single turn. The fact that we don't have anything good on Kelvin will make that a bit more difficult. But that's fine. Kelvin's not one of our good units anyway. Nebelstern should be a much more capable unit. And of course, Gus's own unit should be essentially unable to take damage. Because that's fair. Yeah, these are just more generic. Or if you want to be technical, it's these guys are William. I ended up not even needing to show off William. And our guys will take a little bit of extra damage just because of the continuous fighting. And we're having everybody focus on the same target, just so that we kill as many as possible. Doing damage without killing in this mode is basically meaningless, so... Excellent, we get to show off Gus. Now, as I mentioned, Gus himself is, you know, pretty strong, nothing hugely special. He has a fairly strong weapon. I think he upgraded it for this. I don't know that he'll get a turn, though. Not in this fight. His steel soldiers are using weapons that are... You know, I think it's 40 attack power more than what the enemy is using. He can directly attack Gustav. Ah. I'll get a little bit of archery support. No reason not to. And, I mean, you know, you can tell that Nebelstern's pretty strong. Okay, looks like Woodstock's gonna be probably the best. Oh, we both have archer support. And that should mean that Lawnmower can kill their guys some of the time.
Welcome, purple humanoid.
Hey Gus, we're actually just seeing a battle involving your namesake. I don't think I've seen a retreat through an enemy before. $14, that was about the dumbest idea you can do. And just by virtue of being a... not even great at this point in time player character, Gus is terrifying on the field. And I believe it's probably Nebelstern that was the one that actually executed him. He would seem to have more of the proper mentality for that than Kelvin. But here we actually get to have a handful of Gus scenarios in a row. Well, you don't want to have somebody who was acknowledged as heir still around. Antal. Sure you don't, Kelvin. I'd forgotten that Leslie shows up here. I thought she was all but gone after we came back to Merchman. Also, that cutscene transition makes it real obvious that Leslie's model and Neville Stern's model are eerily similar. From the back, anyway. Yeah, I guess I can see that. Well, at least, Flynn and Kelvin are, kind of consistent with their brushing on the same person. I know what this is. This is something I should have actually looked up. And this is what I wanted to look up. Because I don't remember, and I really don't want to risk grabbing the version that has the paladin sword, because there's no reason to grab it. I think... It's not item drops, it dictates which stores are there. The blacksmith district is weapons, primarily. And in the east and northern version, the east version has the paladin spear, which there isn't, with like one exception, there's one spear that's better, or anywhere near as good. But there are a lot of swords that are around that 50 attack power point, and your main sword user at that point in time doesn't have a weapon slot. He has a steel weapon better than the 50 attack sword, but he also just, both of his slots are dictated. The east and north, east is spear and north is bow. Bow kind of sucks, but if you're going to use a bow, you might as well use the steel one. I think I'm just going to do the entertainment district. I don't believe the steel or the shopping district is especially useful because it's just mostly just the same tools you can get elsewhere. But I mean, we only get one chance to actually visit the city, and that is forever from now. In an odd way, I do like that Finny never, the NPCs never change meaningfully. And that makes a bit of sense. You need to learn how to use the anima or how to use the quell when you're still super weak. Well, presumably, Kings of Finny, that's what the Finny royal style is, designed around, is the firebrand. Yeah. Not gonna argue with you there. Philippe may have been intelligent enough to be wearing some anti-fire equipment, water, tools, etc. Yeah, you may have borrowed Kelvin's birch ring. Not that Kelvin has actual access to it right now, but surely canonically he does. Yeah, that was one of those moments where you sit there and you watch that and you go, well, you know, screw Will's side of the story. I need to see this through. And of course, I think this is the exact moment where you can't keep going with Gus's side of the story. I think you have to do At the Mines at this point. Yeah, I don't have access to another actual Gus side story. Oh, that's not true. I have Johann the Assassin. But if you're just playing through it, you know, you'll have access to it. Will early scenarios and At the Mines, and that always felt like a real good moment to have as a cliffhanger there. And here we are with just Will. Shit going wrong immediately is kind of Will's MO. Like, I think really his name wouldn't be Tycoon Will, it would be Typhoon Will. I don't think there actually is a real timer. I needed to get off that shaking for a second. It's a hat. I always forget that it's a hat. Yeah, I don't think there's... It might be a later Will scenario that is required that I'm thinking of. It's still weird that you can't do quick saves in here. Oh, I might have screwed up. I might have gone... Yeah, this is the way to the entrance, isn't it? And those blue chips are just basic water tools. I'm gonna discard another. Well, no, not relevant. right now. Plus, I know we have access to, Oh, that is a quell. That's a quell that we could have purchased. I feel like I definitely missed something there. Also, this shaking is really hard to control. I forgot there was an actual time limit on that. I'm always surprised when a game's actually willing to do that. Yeah, but there are a lot of games that mention the time partway through. I believe it's entirely, I mean, it could be actual time-based, I don't know. I know that I'm going to, before doing anything, discard a couple hats and a couple shoes, and then try to do all of this as quick as possible. And it makes sense that the quick save's not available. They don't want you to be able to screw yourself over. I could have sworn that's the way I was able to get through before. I do want to try to save everybody and get that well. Yeah, I don't think this one was actually important. I think that because it's not real-time based. I think that blue chip's just a trap. Because it's like 3 or 4 rooms. Yeah. Although on the other hand, I don't think you can get the hot stone without doing that. Yeah, it might be room transitions and people saved. We'll see as soon as I talk to this guy if it is. Because this is the same path I took. Yeah, that is what it is. So, or at least that's what it seems to be. I'm gonna get it onto that screen, and then I will grab myself a drink again. Okay. So, I'm pretty sure I want to... I think I need to go up after grabbing the gem band here. I need to go up, grab the... Not grab anything, just go into the next room. Rather than go to the room with the blue chip. Was there anything... No. Wait, was there anything up here? I think this is one of the things that screws me up in the first place. But I don't know if that's necessary to get the sufficient number of room transitions. Although it might be that going there in the first place is what screws me. And I might have been able to pick up the blue chip if I did not go into that first room. We'll see. I want to save everybody because the reward is a, I'm pretty sure it's a staff. And I think that's everybody. And that should be the last transition, so... Yeah, I think we could have gotten the blue chip. Before I do anything, I want to make sure I have a spot. Oh, I actually have 3 spots. And so, out of that, we got a sandworm staff. And probably some money. And I think it's the Anima Faith Fiasco is the item that you have to do. I didn't want to do that. The town we start in does not have a spot where we can ship stuff. And I know we have access to these things. And I think it's Grugel has... merchants where I can get stuff shipped. Not just a tavern, I think. I had to talk to the barkeeper anyway. Here we go. I know staffs are the highest efficiency way to convert chips to, or credits to chips. But you don't always have access to them. Since we're not using shields at all, since I'm not just doing steel weapons and steel armor on everybody, Yeah. Yeah, especially since we have some stronger tools, or some stronger staves. Even if we're carrying both of the users. Still feels really weird to have more quells than spots to actually, use them. Oh yeah, and we have access to Wasteland and Lob Holts. And now we actually have not a huge number of spots, but a decent enough number. Not until we actually see who we have. Which is a newcomer, Patrick, and Tyler. I mean, really, if he has any type of plus with the bow, it would be noteworthy. And of course, since it's relatively shortly after we've, gotten the 2 spear quells, they of course don't give us a spear user. In games where Patrick hasn't leveled up quite so well, I've given him both of those quells. He's never really good with spears, and it's a much better idea to keep him with staves, though. Yeah, decent enough magician. Yeah, so now he has access to everything but Beast. And actually... yeah, it's not a huge drop-off. I believe now we're just looking for information on the followers. But where are tigers found? Also, I can't help but imagine that tigers would be great enemies to duel against. That's a good set of items to grab later. Another good... well, actually that pit spider... oh no. Yeah, the pit spider and hunter bow might be useful. I don't know why I didn't put the weakest stuff on her. I'll grab these just so I have access to them later. Is anybody using for both water and tree? Yeah, probably best to put it in Patrick. Oh, and I have rolls again. I don't remember exactly what Commander does. I mean, both of those sets of ideas seem to be kind of hating on the people that don't have anima, but... oh yeah, I forgot, this was the whole reason I did the southern, or unlocked the southern entrance. This area sucks. I feel like I could say that about most of the dungeons, though. Well, don't have it. I would assume the percentage is very low. Aren't capable enough with it to be useful even as a soldier to do much more than, say, boil water with their anima. I would say would be probably a considerable amount. I suspect that the people who are very weak are the majority of what makes up Gus's army. And so they don't feel like they're really losing anything by using the steel, because they weren't strong enough to be a spellcaster anyway. Yeah, I suspect one of the reasons that makes... There's probably a bit of mechanical and story divide here, but one of the things that makes people who focus more on the weapon side rarer is just the fact that there is no base level of WP like there is for SP. I've brought it up a few times, but one of the things that makes spellcasters really powerful is start of a battle, you're always going to have at least whatever your equipment says your SP, whatever SP your equipment is providing as a minimum, and there's nothing that boosts WP that way. I seem to recall this is just go in as far as possible. Yeah, I think this is the way forward. Well, I mean, I think a real good example of that was even with against the Megalith Beast with Patrick and Will's combo attacks combining for about the same amount as Cody's hybrid arts. Yeah, the ancients used steel weapons before they found out about tools. But I always kind of read an implied scarcity into those. Which may or may not have been the case. So I hate these little paths. What actually I should be doing is... That's also very true, and the discussion with Gus and and Mouton about the scarcity of charcoal and coal. Far from the best enemy to be trying this on. Especially since it's probably actually a touch dangerous for Patrick, but... Yeah, if nothing else, I suspect that the relative scarcity of steel is because you require a lot to make it, whereas you can make a wooden sword by shaving down a plank of wood. This is where we came from? I'm pretty sure, even in this case, that the steel weapons are supposed to be an analog for gunpowder, just as Gus is supposed to be an analog for Nobunaga. The early use of gunpowder was... it was sorta effective, but it wasn't... it was to the point where it was not good enough for it to be seen as a real weapon by most nobles. Oh yeah, that's right. Weapons don't do anything against ghosts. It's just spells. So I wanted the hybrid art to hit the ghost. Rip Ray. I can get around this one if I go fast. Yep. That makes it real obvious why they would go against Gus. Yeah, even the 15th is a pretty heavy magic user. Just got to put on a couple quells to overcome the steel sword. And Gus's actions kind of have historic analogs, but like the best one that I can think of is not, well, it's more, in this particular case, it feels more like there was a Mongol group that I think was about the 1200s, completely wiped out an assassin fortress. Well, if I missed an item back there, it's just straight missed. Knowing full well that the people in the fortress were not the ones who would have been doing the assassination, because the people in the fortress were entirely just regular citizens. Well, crap. This enemy still does a lot more damage than I remember. Hopefully he doesn't have a second combo coming. Or Turtle Killer kills him. Well, that's what I was going for. Now we have the best staff technique. Of course, it's not actually in our list because doing the duels doesn't put it in your list automatically, but... Oh boy. It and Beast Lightning are two of your strongest abilities, so... Rip Raymond, possibly Rip Patrick. Definitely Rip Patrick. And now we either escape or yeah, those ghosts are brutal if you don't have a Dead Stone equip. I do like that this shows both the single-minded approach of Gus and Will. I hadn't actually intended to heal Will there, but... It makes sense. They're the two most historically relevant people alive at this point in time. And SaGa Frontier 2 loves doing its history book stuff. I do think that that is going to be it for me this time. At least partially so that I minimize the amount that I have to replay to go back and get a few things that I don't have easy access to right now. Specifically, Reviva, which I thought was on a whole bunch of people, but is only on a whole bunch of people Gen 3. And if I want to have a decent shot of doing Ghoul Tower, really at any point in time, I needed to be doing it a ways back. Shortly after the Ice Megalith, realistically. So, thank you for watching. I'll be doing more of this with the different save Friday.